Charlie Steiner, who was the voice of the Dodgers at RKO Radio. So an opening
By
was
the way,
there.
we're live.
Yeah.
We're live. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Very,
So an opening happened, and I got offered this job, and I thought, man, things aren't going well in Seattle. I really don't want to leave the West Coast, but this is an opportunity that might lead to something else. So I took it, and unfortunately, Sam quit right after I got there because he was just burnt out. He was working ESPN. He was doing some TV.
MSG. He was on MSG.
Yeah, well, he was doing a whole. This is before MSG, well before MSG, but he was doing a whole bunch of hockey for ESPN, and he was doing some other stuff.
I played with his kid.
Oh, is that right?
Hockey with his
Oh,
kid,
great guy. Sam's a great guy.
against him very briefly.
Yeah, he's almost 80. He's still doing the games. Doing the games.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah,
him and JD, John Davidson.
Yeah. There you go. Okay.
That's awesome.
My God, that's
Usually I had
Yeah. Well, I took that job, and it was a great opportunity. It was a great experience living in New York.
That's awesome. So you were in the city.
I was in Manhattan. I worked for a radio network that had 1,400 affiliates, doing sports updates and covering big events. And unfortunately, like I said, Sam left, and that's always a kiss of death. So his boss took over and wanted to hire his own guy. So he kept it. After 9 months, they were part of the Wire Service Guild. And after 9 months, they have a probationary period where they can get rid of you. And so he decided to do that. So I stuck around for a couple months and freelance. And I came home. I had nothing going on. I stayed with my parents, and then I started. Luckily, the Niners were just starting their great run. This is at the end of the '81 season. So I picked up some work, and I just did a lot of freelance work, filling in locally and doing a lot of. In those days, there were probably 8 or 9 radio networks nationally, and if you hustled, you could make a modest living. And rent in those days was cheap. I had a buddy of mine who was a sports writer, had a 2-bedroom house. It's like $250 a month for a room in this really nice house out in Sunset. So I did that for about 7 years, and then KMBR came along. And that was in '89, and KMBR was like for 17, almost 18 years, and then a bunch of other things in between, and then KCBS a couple of years ago. So it's like a lot of stuff along the way.
That's an awesome career. That's really exciting. You went for it.
I'm kind of a journeyman, but I got a chance to work in New York. How many guys get a chance to do that, or women?
Yeah,
I mean, that's a great opportunity, even though it didn't work out.
If you guys are ready, what we'll do is we'll do just a 2-minute segment.
Sure.
Vern should be on his way.
Okay, cool. Sounds like a plan.
He's running a little late.
No problems. I don't need the phone. We're not taking any calls, so I'll just keep that right here. Make sure I stay close. Yeah, just keep like this when you talk, like that. There you go.
Got it.
Yeah.
The old pivot.
Yeah, the old pivot. There you go.
It's a power play goal.
Power play goal. There you go. Yeah. Hockey.
All right, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
All right.
Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Bruce McGowan, longtime sports radio personality, and hopefully Vern will be here in the second segment. That rascal, he's on his way. He is from the CBS affiliate KPIX-TV in San Francisco. At each commercial break, we're going to ask a sports trivia question, and this theme is going to be basketball, since we're still in the height of basketball season.
Yeah.
When we come back, we have a special guest, Marc Dorneles, who is, we're going to call him our everyday fan. His business actually is he's an insurance broker, P&C as they call it, property and casualty. But we thought it'd be kind of fun to have someone, not necessarily who's a sports athlete per se, that we'd all know about, but we thought, let's get an everyday fan in here. And the reason is because we met at a networking event. Excuse me, I was telling him I was doing the sports show. And he says, yeah, you ever cover hockey? And I go, well, I know how to spell hockey. And so I thought, okay, we'll get someone here who knows a little bit about hockey because he comes from New York. Yeah. All right. When we have time, we're also going to cover the Oakland filing a lawsuit against the Raiders. Thought that'd be kind of fun to talk about. And do you know some fan lost $569,000 on the Seahawks 49er game?
Wow.
Oops.
Well, I hope the guy's got more than that in his bank account that he can afford it.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeez.
In fact, I remember when the Bears played the Patriots, I was in Vegas for that Super Bowl. Yeah. And I remember going...
That's going back a few years.
85.
Yeah.
And I was looking, I was going, I know the Bears are going to win. This is going to be just an absolute cakewalk. And so as I'm placing my bet, I bet like $500.
It wasn't pretty big too, as I recall.
Oh yeah, it was just devastating.
Yeah, and Jim McMahon.
And I asked the guy behind the counter. I said, have you seen any big bets lately? And he goes, well, the guy just before you bet $50,000 on the Patriots. I go, oh, let me get him back. See if he can get his money back. Yeah. I go, you're gonna get smoked.
Yeah. Well, if you have 50,000 to throw away, I guess it's not that big a deal.
I guess, yeah, but it still hurts, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
All right, this segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by Pacific Private Money, providing mortgage investments that are currently yielding over 7.5% secured by real estate. It doesn't get any more conservative than that. Check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com. Don't touch that dial. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back. All right.
All right. Like your shirt, by the way. It's nice.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to kind of dress up for radio.
Yeah.
And for the camera.
As you can see, this is my normal attire, getting ready to go hiking.
Oh, that's great. Where are you going?
Well, I just took my dogs for a walk, and when my daughter gets off school at noon, so I'm going to take her up to Lagunitas and take the dogs up there and just do a little.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd normally be out surfing, but the waves are just.
Well, I was reading that they said
huge.
be careful.
Yeah, it's huge. It's enormous. It's out of control, and I'm not anything higher than the ceiling is about my limit.
Mm-hmm.
That's stretching it too. So it's just really dangerous out there, and the water's getting really cold. So you got to get your winter suit on, full body.
Let's just grease up.
Yeah, I was out a couple weeks ago at Vero Beach, which is normally a small wave, and it was really dumpy, and it was like dropping out and thick. And I tried to dive under this one big wave, to get deep down underneath it. And the problem was it was breaking in shallow water. It was breaking like waist deep water. So I couldn't get deep enough. The thing just grabbed me and threw me and shook me like a rag doll. My arms are going this way, legs. I get up and I go, oh man, a couple of years before it wouldn't have been so bad, but I'm 66 years old. I'm like, oh shit, this is killing me.
Did we forget to take the life insurance policy out?
Yeah, my wife always worries about me. I told her, I said, I'm not stupid. When I see waves that are big, I stay away. I learned my lesson.
If you die, it ain't gonna be from that.
No, it won't. I'll probably be one of those fortunate people who dies in bed like my dad did at 93. Yeah.
All right.
Hopefully, we'll keep the fingers crossed.
Let's go ahead and get this started here. Whenever Vern gets here, he gets here.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go. Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Again, I already gave the intro. We're back.
That's okay.
Welcome back to
No,
Sports
some
Econ
people may have
101.
missed your intro. So
Okay.
It's possible.
Okay.
A lot of people turn their radio on, just at the spur of the moment.
Maybe I should do that at every commercial break. We'll start. Welcome to Sports. No, that'll
whatever works.
Whatever works.
Yeah, whatever works.
I'm Edward Brown, along with Bruce McGowan. We have a special guest, Marc Dorneles, who we're going to call him our. Is that okay if we call you our everyday sports fan?
Well, I don't. Frankly, I want to say yes, but actually, I think I might take issue with that because I actually have a prolifically mediocre career as a beer hockey player.
Okay.
Going back decades. So perhaps you can say, a prolific beer league hockey player.
Prolific. Okay, that's how we'll introduce you. Okay, so audience, you heard that, a prolific beer hockey. Does that mean you play with a beer can?
Prolifically mediocre.
Okay, there you go.
Word,
One of the great things about hockey too, it is kind of a cult sport. It's a regional sport. You have a lot of fans, but not that many people play it because it's hard to get access to the ice. But once you go to a game and see a game in person, it is captivating. It really is.
Yeah, my real estate broker, I guess he comes from Chicago or something, because he every once in a while he'll come in to his office, all bruised, banged up, and I mean he's 50 years old, and he's still playing hockey, and broken legs and arms and all that stuff. It's a lot of fun.
It's not as bad as football, though, is it?
That's really impressive. Really impressive that he's still at it. I mean, I'm a little bit younger than that, and I'm kind of on the cusp of hanging up the skates because the bumps and bruises, they keep coming in that game. But
I hung up my basketball shoes because of that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's tough. So just to give the audience a little background, if they missed the first segment, we thought we'd call this our quote everyday sports fan, because Mark and I had met at a networking group last week, and we just talked about what we do, and I said, well, I've got this national sports show, and he goes, oh, you ever talk about hockey? And I go, yeah, not too much, because honestly, I don't know that much about hockey. I mean, Bobby Hull and Gordie Howe. I know those guys. Anyway, Phil Esposito. I could name a few. Ovechkin. Yeah. So anyway, and so we were
don't
talking
forget
about
Sidney Crosby.
No, of course, but he's part of the young guys. I go back to Bobby Orr and all that. So anyway, so Mark was mentioning about the sports of business with hockey, and as he was talking, I thought, what, this would be kind of a fun segment because. I honestly don't know that much about hockey and all the business aspects of it. But Mark comes from New York, big
Big hockey team.
Big hockey.
Yeah.
Oh,
hockey
yeah,
players.
the
So,
Rangers.
why
yeah.
don't you kind of sort of repeat what you told me last week when we were talking about the business aspect of hockey?
Yeah, sure, Edward. It's such a pleasure to be here. This is really like almost like a Christmas season treat. You know, I told this to my wife that I'd have a few minutes on the radio here, and just talking about something that I love so much. I mean, I've played it for 30 years, and it's so exciting to see the game live, Bruce. That's a great point. You know, it really gives such a different perspective on how fast and engaging it is. And, you know, Marin is home to such amazing athletes. You know, that's one thing that really jumps out at you is that people are in such good shape and so conscientious and so have such tremendous athletic ability. And, you know, hockey, I think, is just another great venue that it would be fantastic to see it develop in this county, you know, and it's kind of an opportune time because coming from New York, like I have, you know, of course, is the Rangers, right? Even though they're, we used the word mediocre before, they're spectacularly mediocre.
But they have spectacular fans.
When you talk, well, back up for a minute.
Hardcore.
Okay,
Yeah.
Marin and hockey, all right? The only thing I remember is in 1974, it was really cold, and so we poured some water on the cement, and it froze for about a day. And we were really lucky.
Yeah.
And it snowed maybe, you remember it snowing once?
Once in a while. Once every 20
years.
years.
So
yeah.
it's a little tough. It's sort of like, you know, with the Tampa Bay Lightning, you know, you got to get pretty much all the snowbirds to come down.
That's what amazes me. Places like Tampa, Phoenix, Dallas. I mean, they do have a cult base, and I'm wondering how many of those folks that live and go to those games have origin, say, in the Northeast or the Northern Midwest or Canada.
Well, that's an awesome point. I mean, yeah, it's true, right? The landscape, the temperature is really important, but the game has exploded so much. If you look at the last 10 years, I mean, there's hockey in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
You know, the LA Kings won a couple Stanley Cups just within the last 10 years, you know. One of the best players in the NHL, Austin Matthews, who's playing for Toronto. He's a Phoenix guy.
Yeah,
we have NHLers from California,
Yeah.
so it's all over, you know. And in Florida, the game has exploded. Tampa Bay won a Stanley Cup as well. So I think one of the big things I wanted to mention here was that this is an exciting year, really. It is for San Jose Sharks and the Bay Area fans, because, you know, I remember the magic of 1994 when the Rangers, that's really when hockey took it to the next level, even in New York, right, which is a cold state. But the Sharks have a dynamic team. They're stacked to the gills.
They're a fun team to watch, and they have been for a number of years now. Yeah, that's a good one. But they have been, and they have that cult-like following. You know, I cover sports here in the Bay Area, and yes, we don't talk about the Sharks as much as we could, but at night, you know, when the games are on, we always try to play the highlights and the post-game sound. And it's amazing how loyal their fans are and how knowledgeable they are. It's almost like, as we said, it's almost like a cult sport. I'm not saying that the hockey fans are not interested in the other sports, but they are so driven to follow the team so closely. It's really nice to see.
Yeah, and there's great crossover too. You know, one of the fun facts about the game is there's a lot of, you know, fantastic baseball players who've also grown up, you know, loving hockey as well. I mean,
that's true.
Who was the famous Atlanta Braves pitcher? Glavine, was it?
Glavine, yeah.
If it wasn't him, it was one of them, and that the Smoltz, maybe, I think it was, who was from Massachusetts.
One of those two. Yeah, you're right.
He was a great player as well. So, you know, it's just talking about athletes and how convertible it is. You know, picking up skating, and I think just to see the game grow here in Marin, not in Santa Rosa, it has an ice rink there, not in Oakland, not in San Francisco, but here in Marin.
And Ben, let me interrupt you. For those national fans, I'm not sure where Marin is. It's about 15 miles north. Well, it's actually right over the Golden Gate Bridge.
On the north side. Yeah.
I'm thinking Marin. I'm thinking Santa Fe. That's the only thing that counts to me.
Think about Marin County. It's unique. It is very exclusive. It is very expensive to live here. But as you were mentioning, it is a special place. Physically, we've got some incredible open spaces, seashore, national monuments, Muir Woods, Point Reyes, Mount Tamalpais, and people, as you mentioned, are really into staying in shape. A lot of mountain biking, hiking, swimming. You know, whatever people want to do. And I never thought of hockey as something that would be a big sport here, but hey, listen, I went to the University of Denver, and I knew nothing about hockey growing up as a kid, other than just a few things, you know, locally with the San Francisco Seals, the old Western Hockey League. Went to my first game, and they had a powerhouse team led by a guy named Murray Armstrong, who had been a terrific player of the NHL back in the 1930s and 40s. And I just was immediately mesmerized by it. As you mentioned, it captures your imagination. And college hockey especially is fun because there's usually a little more scoring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Great reference. Denver still has a powerhouse
Yeah.
program, and the college hockey is exciting. I mean,
Yeah.
to watch the Bean Pot back east, it's a big tournament out of Boston, but you have so many good teams here. I mean, North Dakota is another powerhouse as well, and even to see the fledgling programs at Cal Berkeley versus Stanford. I tried to get to a game.
They have teams there. I did not know this.
Yeah.
Wow. I did not know they had hockey teams for Cal and Stanford.
They do, so you can go.
Kind of club sports, or they're.
You can go see the big game, quote.
Yeah.
What do they play?
All
Where's
ice
their
for a lot
rink?
cheaper. Parking's a lot better.
Yeah, exactly.
Really.
Where do they play? Where are the rinks?
It's in Oakland. It's right downtown. It's Telegraph and Broadway between 18th and 19th.
I think that's where my real estate broker plays.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, this is a little embarrassing, but I had told Bruce before this that I knew so little about hockey that when I went to a game in person and I started seeing guys on the ice coming in for a switch, not realizing that was allowed. Where's the referee going to throw the flag? 20 men on the field.
Yeah. Well, for those who don't know hockey, you have basically 3 scoring lines, and usually you can switch in and out defenders. Usually 4 to 6 guys on defense.
That's correct. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, you can change on the fly. That's part of what makes it dynamic. It's kind of like soccer, except on horse steroids. If you think of it that way. I don't know. Not that soccer isn't a great game. Love it too. But yeah, the movement and the speed of the game is really good.
All right, guys, we're going to cut to a break. When we come back, we're going to continue on because there were specific things that you were talking about with expansion and ownership and all that kind of stuff. That, again, we're going to get our beer fan to explain to us. All right, we're talking basketball for trivia questions. Who drafted Paul Gasol in the 2001 draft?
Good question.
All right, that's our trivia. That's our first trivia question. See if you know who drafted. We should get him
I
on the
know
phone.
that. When I saw his brother Mark playing with Memphis last night, I went
that's
to the
right.
game, the Warriors and the Memphis Grizzlies. Wasn't much of a game, by the way.
No.
As expected, the Warriors blew them out. So,
which is odd because Memphis usually gives them a
the Warriors had all of their players healthy, with the exception of DeMarcus Cousins, who will not be there till probably February. They first time in a couple months.
All right, stay with us. Sports Econ 101 is going to continue. We'll be back. We're going to
continue. That's right. Let us continue.
Having fun so far?
Oh, that was a blast. Thanks, guys. That was real great. Great school.
Yeah. It was fun. When I was there, they were in the Frozen Four 3 of the 4 years, and then they got knocked out in the Western Finals by Herb Brooks' Minnesota Golden Gophers. But and it's funny, in the '60s they won 5 titles.
If you're going to get knocked out by anybody, might as well be Herb.
Herb, yeah.
This is just before like 6 years before the Olympics.
Yeah.
In Miracle on Ice.
That was a fun movie.
With Kurt Russell.
I played on Lake Placid.
But they did not win a title and then they won 2 in a row in 03 and 04, and I think they won another one recently, didn't they? Or they just won those?
They did. They won recently. Yeah. In fact, I have a friend whose friend they both went to your alma mater, and he's in the NHL.
Wow.
He made it into the show, so it's not and it's not terribly uncommon that they don't. I mean, that's a real top flight program.
We had the 4 years I was there, we had 16 guys that played in either the WHA, which was the World Hockey Association. Remember, it was kind of trying to compete with the NHL and the NHL. None of them were big stars, but they were, they had a cup of coffee or they played a few years. They got him Pete McNabb, whose dad was a big executive in the old Western Hockey League. He played for, I think, 12, 14 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Here we go. Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here, along with Bruce McGowan and our special guest, Paul Dorneles. See, I have to look at it to make sure I pronounce it correctly. All right, first trivia question. Who drafted Paul Gasol in the 2001 draft?
Good question. You want to take a shot at that one? Because he ended up with the Lakers, of course.
Well, can I say Joe Montana?
No.
Yeah, it was some team back in the Middle West, and I should know this, but for some reason my brain.
So he was actually drafted by the Atlanta Hawks. But his rights were traded to the Memphis Grizzlies.
Wow. And now his brother's playing.
Yeah.
Well, those two guys are tough. Well, especially Mark is still pretty good. Paul's past his prime, but Mark is still.
What's the age difference?
I don't think it's more. I think it's about 4 years.
Okay. Paul's
4 years.
A few years older.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Paul's a few years older. Yeah.
All right. So the reason we have Marc Dorneles in the studio here is because he's our hockey expert. Is that okay to call you our hockey expert?
And he's got that connection with Madison Square Garden.
Yes.
That is one of the great venues, by the way. If you ever have a chance to go to New York and Manhattan and get a ticket, which is tough enough to do. Go to a game at Madison Square Garden. I got to cover about 25 games one year there when they were in the Eastern Finals against the New York Islanders, who were right in the midst of their great run in the late 70s, early 80s. And that place was a madhouse.
Isn't it great just to walk into the main arena is really something.
Yeah. Well, okay, so where's the press box in relation to
it's kind of halfway up, and it's open, so you can actually sit and talk to the fans. At least it was. This is, I'm talking 37 years ago. They had Rod Duguay. You remember him?
Great. Yeah. He's a legendary character.
Yeah. Ooh la la, Sasson. You know, remember he had those commercials for the shampoo company. So the New York Islander fans used to taunt him whenever they come out to the island and play out there. Ooh la la, Sasson.
But hockey, I understand, is quite a big difference when you're when you're with glass.
Yeah.
You know, compared to being up.
It's all encompassing, don't you think? I mean, it really fills you, and you can follow the puck a lot more easily than you can on television.
You know, it's the sounds as well, and the hits are really amplified, which is great. And you can just see the flow of the game. You know, you can see the plays develop very quickly, and it's so much more. You know, it's fluid. It's very fluid. And
that's a good way of putting it.
When I go to games, when I go see the Sharks games, what I like to look for is their individual skill. And it's not just the razzle-dazzle explosive plays. Of course, those are amazing. We all love those. But I like to look at, you know, how quickly are they turning their skates on a crossover, or are they knocking a puck out of the air? Or what's their vision of the ice? And they're doing all these little things that you take for granted that just so quickly and so well. It really makes it exciting.
Well, and the referees are they call them refs, don't they?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're I mean, they're in really good shape. They got to do so much skating.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, I actually got to ref too, of course, you know, at a
lower
level. Yeah. But it's exciting, and the training is rigorous, and I never skated as well in my life as those years that I was a ref, because you're skating and the workout is amazing.
Yeah. How many? Is there 2 of them on a time or 3?
There's actually, well, in the NHL there's about 4, because there's 2 linesmen and 2 referees. But you know, your typical, like, let's say college hockey, I mean, that would have 1 ref and then 2 linesmen. Actually, I think they might have adjusted it for college hockey, but you know, usually you see about 1 ref, 2 linesmen.
Okay, and then getting to the NHL, is it typical, like football, going straight from college into it, versus, you know, like in baseball they have AA, AAA, and all that?
Yeah,
isn't it more like baseball? It really is, isn't it? I mean, they have the farm system, and they kind of draft kids. They draft kids as young as 14, 15, 16 years old, don't they, sometimes?
Yeah, it's way more focused on the farm system. So in that sense, it's the farm system is really where they gather the players from. Certainly the players can come from college, and you know, you have famous stories about people who are drafted really young. Tom Barrasso, great Pittsburgh Penguin goalie from back in the day, he was drafted at like 16 or something, and you know, so they and even more so nowadays they scale up really young. But you know, Connor McDavid, he's the big hot star in Edmonton, right?
Oh, okay. So mentioning a goalie. Okay, so I saw my brother, and I told him we were talking about hockey, right? He goes, ask the guy this question. He goes, why don't they hire someone like Jabba the Hutt, who's so huge, who can just cover the entire net? Is there a limit as to like how many pounds the guy can be, or anything like that, or how big the mitt can be?
That's right. Well, Jabba the Hutt currently has a lot of job offers, so he won't take it.
Come on in, Vern. The water's fine. We've just been blessed with Vern Glenn from Channel 5, who's our other co-host.
Big hockey fan. Right?
Big hockey fan. Yeah. We're talking hockey today.
Oh, great.
Yeah. All right, just get your mic all set
hit
there.
Check into the boards. Sure.
So great question.
Kick, save, and a beauty.
You know, speaking of hockey goalies and the size, that the league actually cut down because there was this period where the goaltending equipment just got bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, of course, you have to be so flexible, so athletic to be.
Not if you can cover the entire net with your body.
What amazes me is that guys for years did not wear the mask.
Yeah.
And that is insane.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's crazy. Up until the 1970s, I think there were still guys that were not wearing a mask, and there was one player I think that sort of pioneered the use of it, wasn't there?
Yeah, well, you know, Ken Dryden was one of the famous he's like, it was Jacques Plante, I think, was the one who developed the face mask.
But who's the guy that put all the little fake stitches, you know, with the
that was in the movie Slapshot.
That was a Boston Bruins goalie. I want to say
Jerry Cheevers?
Jerry Cheevers, yes. That's what I was going to say. Him, or am I Terry Sharp? That
was just to intimidate the opponent, right? Otherwise, if you had a mask with all these little flowers and stuff on it.
Well, it's interesting, too. These guys, some of them can play into their 40s. We have a guy in the Bay Area named Joe Thornton who's almost 40 years old and still very prolific in terms of setting people up. I mean, he's a terrific leader on the floor. How do guys stay in this game till they're 39,
You got to stretch
40?
a lot.
The House is a classic example. Gordiow played well into his 50s.
Yes, he did. He played with his son in the NHL.
Yeah.
And right, I mean, Joe Thornton, what a spectacular talent. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, he's really, I think at last I checked it, something like top 10 or he's really, really amazingly impressive and someone to go see if you hadn't had a chance just yet. But yeah, you know what's funny about him? He's just on the third line. So here he is, former NHL All-Star. I mean, very best of the best, and now he's playing at the third line, which is really great for the Sharks because he's much better than other third line players, right? Because of all his talent and stuff.
Okay, so I want to get
I just think the impressive thing to me is how great a skater, an athlete you have to be to play between the pipes like that. And I didn't even realize that until I put the pads on myself and actually practiced with the San Jose Sharks and at the minor league level with a couple of other teams. Just the beating that you have to take, and then I mean, just as soon as there's loose change in front, you got to be on. And if you go down on the ice, you got to pop right back up. Well, it's not easy.
That's a good point. Yeah, I'm not a skater myself, so I have to have I'll get one of those little walkers, that they have for people with wheelchairs. I'll use that. Right. But Mark doesn't know there's a really funny video of Vern playing. If you saw the movie Slapshot,
sure,
the Hanson brothers, and then those are the real Hanson brothers.
I've been pummeled. But
really? Oh man, that high five.
There we go. Yeah.
That is a claim to fame. That is fantastic.
That was something. Yeah, I was skating around, just minding my own business. This was live TV, and the Hanson brothers being interviewed by a co-worker of mine, and it just kind of came up that, well, I mean, if you're looking for, get your frustration out, there's a guy over there in the corner. I'm just like,
is that how that happened?
Yeah, and they dropped the sticks and just went right after me.
And those guys are actually pretty tall, aren't
they? I mean, they were actual hockey players, all three of them. So I mean, they
Plus the skates add a couple of inches to their height too, so that sort of exaggerated. I remember my one game that I played was a pickup game, a rec league game, or whatever you want to call it, an intramural game at the University of Denver, and I couldn't skate that well, so they put me in the goal.
Yeah.
What a mistake that was! Oh my God.
Yeah.
I just got pummeled. I got clobbered. And I thought,
come on, you're a tough guy. You cut the puck in your teeth and spit it out.
I was a basketball player, not a very good one, but hockey was not my sport. So that was
the other thing I didn't realize is like in the case of Brent Burns. Okay, I didn't. He's got a stick coach. He's got a skating coach. Mm-hmm. He's got a conditioning coach.
Wow.
He's got a sports psychologist.
Stretch coach.
He has all of these people, and if he does it, then a lot of the other top guys have it as well. I mean, it's what these guys have to do to keep at a peak performance all the time. It's amazing.
Great reference, and one more reason to tune into San Jose Sharks hockey. I mean, Brent Burns, if I'm not mistaken, he won the Norris Trophy last year, which is awarded to the best defenseman in the league. I mean, when you look at this guy, he's playing like he's unconscious. He looks like he might as well be on a couch. In fact, I bet he prefers being on the ice to being on a couch. Like, he is so comfortable out there. It's amazing.
And I tell you what else is amazing? When he gets ready for an interview, say like with us, he'll just hey, wait a minute, reaches in his locker, pulls out his teeth, shoves them in, and then he's ready to go.
He's fun
too. They all have. I mean, they not hardly any of them have their like original teeth.
No.
And the bridge work up front. I mean, they just pop it out and sing it like they play the game, and then they just pop it back in for the cameras.
Don't these guys wear mouthpieces and mouth guards? What's the deal on that? I know the old days they
shield and stuff.
Well, it's kind of an anomaly because everyone back then, the whole thing was back then they didn't have the technology, so they weren't wearing cages. Right in the 80s is when they adopted cages, and so nowadays in the NHL, because the players are so good, so used to being out there, they can wear those half visors. But really, you grow up, even through college, you're wearing the cage for safety.
So, sure. Same thing with softball and the kids softball and baseball. They weren't as much cage.
Well, I remember up until the 1990s, there were guys who were still wearing helmets because they were allowed to because they had played for so long. I remember the general manager of the Sharks, Doug Wilson, was a player, and he was the only guy out there with skating around.
That's right, he was grandfathered in.
Well, I think it was Bill Masterson was killed in a hockey game at Minnesota North Stars. He went to the University of Denver, by the way. Hit his head on the ice and was killed, and that sort of prompted them to adopt the idea of using a helmet.
Another thing I didn't realize is how how state of calm these guys are in when they're off the ice. It's just to make something happens.
Yeah.
From the dressing room, walking down the carpet and once they get on the ice, they're just a different guy.
Oh yeah.
It's just it is unbelievable. But off the ice, just boom, just
Big party
calm.
animals though too. And boy, I'll tell you.
I'll bet. Yeah, I saw the movie Slap Shot.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's our second trivia question. What NBA player has won the most league MVPs? We're talking basketball.
Okay.
All right, that's our trivia question. Stay with us. Sports Econ 101 will return.
All right.
So,
Nice to meet
Mark-
you off the air.
Awesome
Yeah.
experience,
All right.
man. I can't believe you played with the Hanson brothers. Holy cow!
Yeah, that, and
Did they
then
play high school
I
or
play with
college, or what's the deal on that? Where
Doug
is-
Wilson's first year with the Sharks was 1991.
First year, right?
Yeah. In fact, in those
91.
days, the Sharks played their games at Cow Palace
First
while
year.
the
Yes.
tank was being built. And so, and George Kingston was the coach.
George Kingston.
Drew Remenda was an assistant coach.
That's right.
And I went out there, and they put me in goal. It was great.
Wow.
But Dougie Wilson,
So
yeah,
you put on all the gear and you got in there and
yeah.
taking shots and
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
yeah. And
Making
okay,
glove saves.
that shit is smelly too.
Oh yeah. I got a funny quick story to tell you. So, I traveled with the Sharks in 93, 94, the year they first won they were in the first playoffs their first time, and they beat Detroit. They upset Detroit.
Mhm.
And
Wow.
we're sitting in this next to a guy named Hal Ramey, worked at KCBS, and this ancient, guy who was like working with the aisles and making sure everybody was in their seats. Usher comes up, he goes, "I don't know if you guys heard the news. President Nixon just died 5 minutes ago." And Hal looks at his watch like this. He goes, "Does that mean the official period of mourning is over?"
Oh,
And the guy goes,
That's
he looks
funny.
at Hal, and he goes, "Oh!" Walks away. For
That's
some
so
reason, I
funny.
remember that.
I can remember Jeff Daniels, the actor, was at that elimination game.
Oh, was
because,
he?
Yeah, because the Sharks closed him out
Yeah,
in San
yeah.
Jose.
Yeah.
And he was just like, guys, come on. I mean, it's all right. Yeah, just it's one series. Feel good about it. But I mean, he was trying to put it in perspective. Okay. Oh yeah, we lost. But I mean, come on, you guys.
Well, it was number 8. It was a big deal. They had number 8, number 1, and they weren't supposed to win. And,
Yeah, but the people were reacting as if
Oh, yeah.
they'd won the Stanley Cup.
Oh, sure.
So,
Well, yeah.
yeah.
Well, Detroit's like your quintessential powerhouse,
Right.
right? And then the Sharks,
Right.
that was like Arturas Urbe was playing on that.
Yeah,
on that
Arthur
team. Yeah,
Zerbe,
he was
like
like-
wall. I
Like wall.
stop ball
Yep.
like I stop
Yep.
hockey like a ball. Well, a couple of guys on the Pistons, on the Red Wings, admitted later that it kind of prompted them to try harder, and they started. I think they won 3 titles in the next 5-6 years.
Yeah, they became
So-
really good for a
So
while.
it
Yeah.
got him. It got him kind
Yeah.
of gave him kind of a jolt, kind of a
Yeah.
slap in the face.
That's
So and
I do
they
regret
sw-
never having seen a game at say like the Joe, some of these historic,
yeah.
places.
Oh yeah.
I got to see a game
Those
at the Forum, the Montreal Forum.
Oh,
That's,
I'd love to go to
Molson
that
Center, I
place.
think.
The
Yeah.
Molson Center.
So I saw them play the Bruins too. So it's, I mean, of course, it was like row triple X. I mean, it was behind the lights. That's how high up in the nosebleeds.
Wow.
But
I'm happy to see the Maple Leafs are doing well. That's good for hockey. To have one of the
Yes.
premier original 6 doing well.
I have a Buffalo Sabres beanie. At home. I
There's another
like
good
the
hockey
logo.
town.
They were terrible at the time. They're playing pretty
Yeah,
good
they
now.
are playing pretty well.
But,
They
um,
are.
don't they have a cool logo? They have one of the best.
Yeah,
logos.
very cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
very
is
cool.
fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is neat. All right.
All right. There were some more business things though that we were talking about, the ownership and expansion.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got the new team coming in 2 years. Is it Seattle coming in 2 years? That'll be good.
Yes, absolutely. The expansion is coming up too.
Yeah.
Here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here, along with Bruce McGowan and Vern Glenn.
Mhm.
How are you? And our special guest, Marc Dorneles. All right. Second trivia question: what NBA player has won the most league MVPs?
Wow. Want to take a stab at that one, Vernon? Because I've got 2 ideas, but I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, the Jordan pops up almost
Yeah.
immediately, but then you think of those great Celtics teams.
Bill Russell?
Well, I'm going to go Will Chamberlain.
How about Magic?
No.
I'm going to go Will.
None of those names?
No.
None of them.
Want to give a
Yeah, Patrick Ewing.
Bob Cousy? I don't know.
No. Jabbar.
Oh,
Kareem
of course.
Abdul-Jabbar.
How
I
many?
forget he played how many? 22 years?
Yeah. How many
21 years?
MVPs did you get?
5?
6.
6.
6
Six
MVPs.
Wow.
Well deserved. I've had a chance to interview him a handful of times.
He's an interesting guy.
What a nice man, interesting guy, worldly guy. This guy is so smart. He could just speak on all. I mean, you throw something out there and he will take it. And it's funny. I asked him. Well, I should have phrased it differently. I should have phrased. Give me 4 guys that you would like to play with from and take to Rucker Park, which is the historic place in New York where where schoolyard legends are built. He rattled off guys from Rucker Park, just Rucker Park greats that nobody had heard of. But I mean, we're trying to do a show to to kind of connect with the audience. Nobody knew these.
Did he say Uncle Drew?
No, he did not. I saw that. I
finally saw that.
I saw that on the plane. Uncle Drew, the movie.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Hey, not to go off on a tangent about Tupac, but one real quick story. He was a huge jazz fan, and he had something like 10,000 albums.
Oh, not the Utah Jazz.
No. And well, he had an incredible collection, and his home burned down, and he lost his entire collection. And it was so cool. All these people found out about it and started mailing him albums. Dexter Gordon and Coleman Hawkins and Miles Davis and Dizzy Gillespie. And so he didn't recoup his collection, but he certainly got a lot of it back because of a lot of nice people out there who had heard this sad story about how he lost his collection.
He also jumped in and talked about his famous fight scene with Bruce Lee. Remember he was Bruce Lee?
Enter the Dragon.
And he talked about how they filmed it in downtown Tokyo. It was kind of noisy outside. They filmed it in some makeshift apartment, and just how they just choreographed everything, and just how great Bruce Lee was to work with. It was just it was awesome.
He was one of the first athletes to really take up yoga and meditation, and he said that was partly responsible for him being able to play till he was 42 years of age.
Well, the other thing I heard was that he never lifted weights. What he did for exercise, he did the heavy ropes,
right?
And I mean,
the battle ropes.
Yeah.
Oh man, those are tough.
Yeah.
And
if you ever done there's also the jump rope ones.
Oh, the jump rope, right.
But he never got hurt because you can really get a good sweat and a good workout in without really.
Well, and also this flexibility with the yoga.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just amazing. You'd see him twist himself around like a pretzel. He was incredible.
And back before the Muslim days, when he was Lou Alcindor, I vividly remember a guest appearance he made on the Mike Connors show, Mannix. Remember Mannix?
Oh, yeah. Mike Connors, who just passed away a couple years ago.
I love that show.
Because Joe Mannix, Private Eye, he had his character had played at UCLA, so there was a scene at Pauley Pavilion, and Lou Alcindor.
Pauley Pavilion, there's another legendary spot.
And for all you fans out there, I had this trivia question once before, see if you remember it. What was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's first name?
What was it? Lou Alcindor? No, something else, huh?
No.
Lou was a nickname? Was it middle name?
I think it was his middle name. Okay. His first name is Ferdinand.
Ferdinand is oh my God! No wonder he changed it to Lou. Jeez, Ferdinand. Now, he went to Power Memorial High School in
New York.
In New York, New York guy. Wow. Anyway.
Well, let's get back to hockey for just a minute because we haven't talked about the real business aspect of it for just a minute here. So, Mark, you were telling me before, again, this was last week, something about the expansion teams and the ownership. Why don't you continue on with that?
Yeah, sure. Real quick, what's exciting about it is to see the expansion of the game, right? As Seattle is the big topic.
Oh, that's right.
Is what's going on now, because the team is they just got approved. I think they're going to start as soon as next year. Or
I think it's going to be 2 years because they want to revamp the Key Arena. They want to make sure it's in really good shape.
Yeah, that makes good sense. But
they've never had it. Hockey team.
They've had minor league hockey.
And
they're very popular.
They lost the Sonics. Supersonics.
Which was a travesty.
I was looking up in terms of their past teams. I was looking up a little bit of the history because we're thinking, well, what are they going to name them, right? And there's a lot of funny names out there. The walleyes and the salmon and all these kinds of
the totems and the breakers.
Yeah, but one of them is the Metropolitans, right? Like the Mets,
the
New York Mets. Yeah. And that's because they had a team way back when that actually played the Canadians. Now I don't know the Montreal Canadiens. I don't know if they were in the NHL or not, but that was a name in the running, and so they did have a team all those years back. But yeah, the expansion of the league has been fantastic, right? If you look at Carolina, you look at the Florida Panthers, the Tampa Bay Lightning,
Dallas has been pretty in Las Vegas. Yeah. Phoenix have they done fairly well?
No.
Is it because of mismanagement or is it bad teams? What's the reason?
That's a great question. They've had some star power there. Gretzky was their coach for a while. I think he's still affiliated with the organization in the back office. So I don't exactly know. I guess it's a little bit tough because there has been so much expansion lately. But I would love to see them, do better.
Denver's done really well. And
Yeah.
Denver brought their team from Quebec City, and I think they won the title the first year they were in Denver, or the second year.
Oh, they sure did. They had amazing teams. But that, I think, the overarching theme is what's so exciting, especially emphasized with the Las Vegas Knights, right? This past year, they went to the Stanley Cup. I mean, first year in the league, they went to the Stanley Cup.
Finals. Oof.
And, so that's what's so exciting. I mean, obviously, they're very profitable. The growth in terms of the profitability of the league has been spectacular.
Okay.
I mean, Gary Bettman, who was recently inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame, if I'm not mistaken. And one of the things they were looking at were the stats of the game and how he's grown it, just from a revenue standpoint, and with all the new teams. So it's been really great.
Why did they knock Bettman from the jump? Remember, everywhere he went publicly, he got booed for a while.
Yes.
I mean, was he just so perceived as an NBA guy that just crossed over and just was not received? I mean, I could never figure out why they hated him at the start. Probably love him now because he's making money.
That's an awesome question, and he's exactly right. He would come out, he'd be handing the Stanley Cup like the most exciting moment, and people would just be showering him, booing him.
Yeah.
And you know what it was? Is because there was a lockout, right?
Well, there's been two. Haven't there been two lockouts?
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
There have been two lockouts, right?
Yeah.
Well, the style of the game changed very much, right? Because they made it very much more defensive. There was a lot of clutch and grab. The passing, offsides and such. And so they made the game a little bit slower and more defensive minded. And people didn't like that, right? Like, especially in the late 80s, 90s, you saw a very free flowing game. And that's why you had these great stars like Pat LaFontaine, for example, or Steve Yzerman, Motown's
I mean,
main
the average fan wants to see a lot of scoring, just like in football,
Well, now it's opened up. Yeah.
Yes, it's gone the other way. Exactly right. And in fact, you were talking about Jabba the Hutt being a goalie.
Yeah.
It might happen in the future. Who knows? But one of the things they've done is made the equipment smaller. They've mandated that the goalie equipment be smaller.
The
so
blocker
that
is smaller now?
the blocker, the leg pad, the glove. Yeah.
See, that's going to be what's going to be unfair. Then is the coming up goalies are not going to get all these accolades, and Hall of Fame saves and stuff like that. I mean, they're just not going to have the same equipment.
I love the fact that you can run the table on a team sometimes with a mediocre team, but if you have a great goalie who's hot, I mean,
Can keep you in the game.
yeah,
He can carry the game, yeah.
I love the way they. I mean, I cringe every time they stretch, like do almost like Chinese splits. It's like,
Now that's where you need the yoga, definitely.
Yeah.
Ken Dryden was always my favorite. I think it's because he pulled off a huge upset. I think it was Montreal back in 1970, upset the Boston Bruins, who had set a league record, I think, was something like 68 wins, and they beat him in the first round. And he was the reason. He was a hot goaltender, and I believe he was a college star, wasn't he?
Yeah. Absolutely. Goaltending is just like those main key positions, right? Quarterback, pitcher. I mean, it's exactly the same thing. Goaltending can carry the team.
Well, it is. For some reason, I was just thinking about this. Where the movie Miracle on Ice, I did enjoy it.
With Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell did a fine job with her.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because if you think about that was 1980, and it was the Winter Olympics.
That's
and then what happened? We boycotted Russia for Moscow, and that's why we didn't have a Summer Olympics, for the U.S. And then 4 years later they did it to us. But it's like, boy, it's a good thing the winter came just before, because that's so exciting on that.
Yeah.
A couple of things I do like on All-Star Weekend. Two things I like. I like the fastest shot competition.
Oh, that's good.
Very cool.
And I like the skills challenge where they put plates where you top shot, whatever. These guys,
that's fun.
All kinds of shots to break the plates.
That's amazing.
It's
amazing.
Their
Incredible.
accuracy. And the speed skating competition is another one. By the way, the NHL All-Star Game is in San Jose this year.
Oh, really? Second time this
Exciting
year that they've had it. Yeah. That's a big deal. It's a lot of fun. It's kind of a fun week or weekend, I guess I should say. Yeah.
Well, anything you can do to boost the viewability, for the fans, and again, like hitting those plates and stuff. Again, I'm not a big hockey fan, but that is definitely fun to watch that.
I will say this of all the sports, I think hockey is the one sport where you have to go to the game. You can't watch.
We were talking about that earlier.
You have to be there. There's an electricity that you feel. I just got interviewed about this. That when you were at the game, particularly in a playoff game.
Oh my God!
Oh, absolutely.
And I wonder how much heat is kind of on the Sharks a little bit for being around for as long as they've had. I mean, there's one there's one title missing from the Bay Area,
Yeah.
and that's an NHL.
But when they've
Well,
been in
they-
the playoffs, what, 13 years in a row, something like that?
And didn't they? They got into the Stanley
They got
Cup,
into the finals a
and
couple
they-
years ago and
and
lost
they-
to the
Yeah,
Penguins.
lost, yeah.
But they didn't get swept though.
No, I think they lost 4-2, and Pittsburgh won it in San Jose.
I mean, that's a great point. They're picked to win this year. They've got plenty of banners up there when you go into the stadium. You know, the Rafters have a good collection of banners, but yeah, there's no Stanley Cup.
Yeah, they used to be
Yeah,
they used to be the sexy pick, you know, at the beginning of the year, but then they would just never, they just would
You're
never
talking about
come
the
through.
Sharks now?
Yeah, the Sharks,
Yeah,
yeah. And
yeah.
in the case of this, in the finals when they lost to Pittsburgh, I mean, Pittsburgh was just clearly the better team.
Yeah.
They were faster, and they could just
Crosby
get,
and Malkin.
yeah,
Yeah.
they could just get the puck quicker, and although the Sharks were bigger, they just the reaction time it just wasn't there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of those sports that maybe only being a hockey player being bigger, right? Because if
Yeah.
you're a good skater, and you
Yeah.
good with the tools.
Well, you want bigs to help the goalies down, you know, in the crease because you want to create some kind of interference for guys that
Yeah.
just
Okay.
shoot from the blue line or
Fair
whatever.
enough. Oh yeah, that's a good
But
point.
so you want to have that, you know, that Bufflin guy.
Who is the biggest guy in the NHL right now? I mean, maybe one of the
He's
bigger
one of
guys.
them. Yeah.
You know, there's a Dallas Star that's really big. I think I want to say Bean
Mhm.
is his name. He's really big. He just laid out a San Jose Shark. Who is it? Donskoy. Man, it was great.
Donskoy.
Yeah.
That's the other reason to be big is to be able to knock them into the board.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It was about 6'5", 230, 240. That's about,
sounds about right.
Can you imagine that on skates coming at you at what, 25 miles an hour or
Yeah, no,
30
thank
miles
you.
an hour?
But the thing is you know, it is interesting. I mean, big is great, and it certainly helps absolutely. But it's not definitive. I mean, you have guys like Martin St. Louis. I mean, he's retired now, right? But he was a phenomenal player. He helped Tampa Bay win a Stanley Cup, and he was very, very short. He was short, but he was just a spectacular skater and awesome stick handling and great sense. And
Who was the guy I played with Toronto a number of years ago? The Rat, they used to call him. Dougie, what was his name?
Or
Gilmore?
Doug Gilmore was
Doug Gilmore,
he was a famous player
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
He was I don't think he
Who's
was
the other guy?
short.
Yeah.
McCloskey, or who was the guy who just like in fights all the time and gets suspended?
Oh, the fights are so great.
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
are.
you know,
McClo-
Ken Baumgartner,
Yeah.
Joey Koser, Big Bob Probert from Detroit. I mean,
Does anybody out there
High
remember
class.
Link?
McSorley.
McSorley.
That-
Anybody
that
remember
was
a guy named Link Gates?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he only played for a couple of years. He was a trouble.
Link Gates. Yeah,
Put him out there just to get
he
him
was
a
in
fight.
there to rack up penalty minutes, just go and rough him up. I mean, that's what he
Link had
did.
great
the
name too.
enforcer.
Yeah.
Link
Yeah.
Gates.
All right, guys. Hey, this is fun. We've talked hockey the whole
Yeah.
time, and actually, it was fun. I actually learned something, which is good.
I wish they would expand fighting into other sports. All this, you know,
Oh.
hold me back home. Let him
Let
go.
him go.
Well,
Let him go for a couple
football, they don't
minutes
have
and see
to.
what happens.
Westbrook
Football, they
did
don't
that.
have to because they beat each other up every play.
Yeah.
anyway.
See, at least with hockey, for the most part, you have some padding. You know, you go basketball, man, it's all.
I don't think basketball players fight because I think they're too tired to fight. You know?
Unless it happens right from the
Running back
get-go.
up, yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Somebody told me in the fighting that because I asked him why these guys, you know, just for the listening audience, they can't see it, but they said it's equivalent to somebody just going like that.
Oh, yeah.
Just constantly. After a while, it's like, yeah, I'm done with it. Yeah.
All right, third trivia question. Who is, again, talking NBA, who is the highest scoring foreign-born player in the NBA? Stay with us.
Ooh.
14 coming
Currently?
on. We'll have
Correct,
some,
yeah.
no, just in history.
Okay.
All right, we'll be right back.
Gotta be Dirk Nowitzki, yeah? Maybe like 20 years or something. I don't know. Maybe.
Foreign-born.
Born.
Foreign-born.
I know it's probably not Dirk Nowitzki. Who would it be?
What talking about?
The highest foreign-born
Not
scorer.
tallest.
Not tallest. Nowitzki's still
Highest
playing. Was
scoring
he-
foreign-born NBA
I'm
player.
thinking Nowitzki's been playing, what, 20 years now? He's been at, just started, he was on the injured list for a while, I think, recently. God, the Warriors look
That's a
so
good
good.
guess.
this night.
Nowitzki is a good
yeah.
guess because I think he just eclipsed some Mark. I think it's the Mavericks all time.
Yes, yeah, he is the Mavericks ultimate.
And
Right.
Steph hit 15,000 points,
15 last
and
night,
he's
yeah,
going to,
with about a 30-footer, too.
yeah, and then Kevin Durant
Kevin Durant was
is
up,
showing
yeah.
the statistics on him. He's going to,
He is such a freakish player. He's got that wingspan, you know? I mean, and anybody who is that tall and that skinny, but he can shoot that outside shot, he can
That
do anything.
3-point line has really changed the
Yeah.
game, and
Yeah.
Steph just really. I mean, I wonder what the classic big man, how effective he would be
Yeah.
in today's game. Will
Yeah.
Chamberlain, guys
Yeah.
like that.
What happened
point.
to the 3-point line? Sorry, did it move in or out?
No, it's
No,
just
no,
They incorporated it in '79. We got into it last week with Chris Ford
Yeah.
that hit the first one.
the old
But,
ABA.
but Curry shoots it so well, it's like a layup for him now.
they did move it back
Yeah.
about what, 10, 15, 20 years
Yeah,
ago,
yeah.
and we moved it back. But still, yeah, I mean, when he hit for his 15,000 point, I mean,
About a 30-footer.
yeah, it's just like as soon as he gets the ball, you know,
Yeah.
the release. Is
I watched him in
incredible.
practice a few days ago, and it's the body language when he makes a shot, but like rattles in. He's pissed about that.
Yeah.
He wants
He's such a perfectionist.
he wants the net to just barely tickle.
There's something.
In fact, he goes over to the scorer's table. He says, "No, it wasn't a swish. Take it off the board."
Something almost ethereal about that guy. It's almost like he's in a different dimension.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, when he's on.
Oh,
So they picked to win this year, huh?
they should if they stay healthy. That's the key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Healthy's
guys,
it.
we're going to close this out. Just got a couple of quick minutes. Here we go. Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today. Bruce loves when I say that. Edward Brown here, along with Bruce McGowan and Vern Glenn, and our special
Never say
guest,
that to a guy who's 66
That's right,
years
Marc
old.
Dorneles. All right, who is the highest scoring foreign-born NBA player?
Brucey?
in
Well, I
history?
was going to say Dirk Nowitzki.
You are correct.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I figured
Dallas.
I'd say you're correct before you have a chance to change your
Oh,
mind.
okay. From Germany.
From
Yeah.
Germany, yeah.
Germany, I believe, a Cal commit.
Is
Oh,
that
that's right. I
I
did
did
not
not
know
know
Had
that.
he not turned pro,
Is that right?
he was committed to play for Cal.
That's right. He came into the pros, what, 19 years of age or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
Do you remember his hair? Remember he used to have
Oh,
like
yeah.
these kind of funny
Yeah.
little dreadlocks?
Yeah.
That
And
was
he's
like so
he's
funny.
41 now? 22 years in the league. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's like your bar.
Yeah.
You know, good
Yeah,
living.
retired.
Good living.
Well, we want to thank Marc Dorneles for educating us on hockey.
It's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much, Edward. It's been great to be with you guys.
Yeah, next
Fun
time we'll
talking
love
to
to
you.
have you back
Yeah.
on again. We'll talk some more business of hockey. And here's our thoughts for the day. A couple of years ago, my therapist told me I had problems letting go of the past. I feel he was wrong. And when one door closes, another opens, or you can open the closed door. That's how doors work. Sorry, I just got a
Did
little
you make
silly
that
this
one up
time.
yourself? Come
No,
on.
you know what? I ain't smart enough to come up with those. I figured
Clever
you'd
Yeah.
enjoy that. All right, guys, we're going to cut out for today. So tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. Hey, one quick thing. Anyone want to mention real quickly before we go about the Oakland lawsuit against the Raiders?
Oh boy, it's an ugly divorce between the city of Oakland and the Raiders, and it's not over yet. They could be back playing there next year. It's possible.
Crazy, huh?
It is crazy.
Well, I think Oakland's had they had it. They want their money. I mean, they're exhausted. They're angry. They got fleeced when they got back when the Raiders came back in the mid-90s, and they're still paying bills for that.
Yeah.
And so they they want the money. Oakland doesn't want to pay, and now AT&T Park has come into
Isn't that
the
amazing?
picture.
Really?
As part of the discussion is a possible place.
All right,
Good
we're
play
gonna,
in
you know,
San
we'll
Francisco.
talk about that
Yeah.
next week. All right,
Sure.
tune in next week to
Crazy.
Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Happy holidays, America.
So long. All right, once that's a wrap, as they say.
That was really fun.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, guys.
It's much
Yes,
better than
yeah.
talking about Donald Trump, isn't it?
Yes.
What's he have to do with hockey?
I don't know. How does he always creep into every conversation? I think that's what he loves. Is he loves
Absolutely.
attention.
We were talking
Don't
about
you
it.
think?
That's his thing.
Yeah, he loves
That's the
attention. Yeah, yeah.
You know, and the interesting thing is, he threw his name in the ring, not really expecting to be.
Yeah.
Right? He just wanted to have his brand out there because
Exactly.
he wanted his own TV network
Yeah.
to
That's right.
launch.
Yeah, that's a
Next
good
thing you know,
point.
he's like, I'm doing this. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's finding out how tough a job it is too.
Yeah.
I really am beginning to doubt whether he's going to be able to finish off his term, because I think the Republicans are so disgusted with him, and I think the senators, it only takes 10 Republican senators to change their minds. And right now, with all this evidence, it's piling up all the circumstantial evidence. I mean, it's like Nixon. It reminds me so much of Nixon in 73, 74. I think they're going to turn against him. I kind of hope it doesn't happen, because I don't think America needs to go through it, and I don't think we need Mike Pence.
No, just let him do his 8
But I
years.
think
and be gone.
but I do think this is exactly what Russia wanted.
Oh, no
It's like,
question.
look at all this turmoil. Look at that.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah, you want democracy like that?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh,
It don't
good
work.
point.
It's a
Good
mess.
point.
But we have only ourselves to blame. The American people are not keeping up with what's going on, and kids aren't voting. They're doing too much of this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Minorities aren't voting. Women aren't voting. I mean, it's just you got to get more. Than
Wait,
just
what was
old-
the turnout last time? I mean,
Well, it was
you said how
okay,
many?
but I'm just saying. I think for young people, it was something like 37% of all the voters between the ages of 18 and 30 voted. 37%.
You know, the thing that surprises me about
very
that, you know, there's the millennials are such, you know, like gotta do, you know, for the economy, do or I mean, do for the environment, you know, be
more involved.
More involved. Yeah.
I know. I don't
Yeah,
understand
I
that. I mean, it's their world. They're going to inherit this mess. But you know, we're all culpable. None of us is, you know, can claim we're.
I went to a screening of Aquaman last night.
Oh, did you really?
Was it good?
Great movie.
Really?
Good God.
I like the way he stands there with
In that
thing.
movie though, there's like a little shot they take at the not just America but the world. There's a
for environment.
Not to give it away. I'm not going to give it away, but there's it'll be clear. Boy, it's time to look at ourselves and what we've done to this planet.
Oh yeah.
But film. But excellent date night film.
Really?
That's something for everybody.
When's it coming out?
I think it comes out next week. I think.
What's it about? Is it a superhero film?
Yeah, Aquaman. Yeah, Aquaman is a King of the Sea superhero created by DC Comics.
Oh, of course.
And he is the product of a woman from Atlantis. And a human, a surface dweller. He's the product of that. So he's half-breed. But
of course,
because he has royal blood in him, he is heir to the throne down there. So you know, something happens. You know, something happens in the underworld that has a direct effect of you know what's happening on the surface, and the character is kind of drawn in to help. But the man, Jason Momoa, great job as Aquaman, and then this the female lead, very strong. Heard is her last name, and
Amber Heard.
Amber Heard, yes, very good. I mean, very good stand. I mean, no shrinking violet in this film.
I hope they sing.
All-star
Under the
cast.
Sea, Under the
Dolph
Sea.
Lundgren is in it.